Mass psychosis. How an entire society becomes mentally ill. Have you ever felt like the world around you is losing its way? That instead of clarity, we're being swallowed by chaos, fear, and confusion? Have you ever wondered how so many people, seemingly rational individuals, can be led astray by irrational ideas, plunging into collective delusions? It's not just a matter of history or politics, it's a struggle that begins within ourselves. Carl Jung called it psychic epidemics, but the Stoics were already warning it is not the events that disturb us, but the judgments we make about them. Imagine an entire society trapped in these wrong judgments, swapping reason for illusions, freedom for obedience, and virtue for vices. It's frightening, but there's a way out, a way to confront the madness around us without losing our sanity. In this video, we'll explore how the ideas of great thinkers, from Jung to the Stoics, can help us resist these destructive forces. We'll discover how to live with clarity, how to find order amidst chaos, and how to protect what truly matters, our mind and our inner freedom. Because in the end, the real battle isn't out there, but within ourselves. And winning this battle could be the key to saving yourself and, who knows, even inspiring others to do the same. Have you ever stopped to think about how easy it is to get lost in a crowd? How intense emotions, shared fears, and shouted opinions can drag us away from reason? It seems that sometimes the whole world is racing toward chaos, while calm and clarity become as rare as gold. But what if I told you there's a way to stay firm, even when everything around you seems to be falling apart? A way not only to resist collective madness, but to become an example of reason, balance, and virtue. This is where Stoic wisdom comes in. The Stoics, like Seneca, Epictetus, and Marcus Aurelius, taught us something deeply simple and powerful. True strength isn't in following the crowd, but in controlling yourself. For them, reason is the supreme guide, and virtue, the anchor that keeps us connected to what really matters. Now imagine this. While the masses give in to fear, seeking easy answers or imaginary scapegoats, the Stoic remains steadfast. They know that uncontrolled emotions can't govern their lives. They understand that we can't change the world around us, but we can always choose how to respond to it. Think of Marcus Aurelius's words, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. What does this mean for us? It means that when the world seems to go insane, we can find peace in our own rationality. And more importantly, by living this way, you can be an example to others. Amidst chaos, your calm will be contagious. Your clarity of thought can illuminate those who are lost. So here's the invitation. Don't let yourself be swept away by the irrationality of the masses. Embrace Stoic wisdom. Cultivate reason, practice self-control, and live according to virtue. Because in the end, that's what sets us apart. Not what happens around us, but how we choose to react. And when you do this, something incredible happens. You discover that even in a crazy world, it's possible to live with purpose, freedom, and true inner peace. Let's build this Stoic strength within us together. After all, it's in the storms that true strength is revealed. Now that we understand how Stoic wisdom gives us the strength to resist the irrationality of the masses, a fundamental question arises. Why are people, even the most rational ones, so easily drawn into collective delusions? Is it just fear? Or is there something deeper in our nature that makes us vulnerable? This is where the reflections of great thinkers like Gustave Le Bon and Carl Jung come into play. They delve deep into human behavior to understand what leads the masses to stray from reason. And by looking at these reflections through the Stoic lens, we discover even more powerful tools to keep our minds intact amidst chaos. 2. Reflections of Gustave Le Bon and Carl Jung through the Stoic lens. Gustave Le Bon observed something troubling about the masses. They don't seek the truth, but rather what confirms their beliefs and desires. It's as if, when faced with the choice between confronting reality or clinging to comfortable illusions, the masses always choose the second option. For Le Bon, those who offer these illusions become masters, while those who try to destroy them become enemies. Now think of Epictetus's words. It is not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. The Stoic understands that the chaos around them can't control them unless they allow it. While the masses succumb to illusions, the wise practice discernment. They question, reflect, and distance themselves from external opinions that lack a basis in reason. Carl Jung, for his part, warns us about an even deeper danger. Humanity's greatest enemy isn't outside, but within our own minds. He called this a psychic epidemic, a kind of collective disorder that emerges when we fail to deal with our own internal conflicts. Jung reminds us that when we deny responsibility for our psyche, we become vulnerable to external forces that shape our beliefs and actions. This is where Stoic philosophy shines. The Stoic knows that external opinions may shout, but they hold no real power over their mind. Epictetus teaches us that we must train our judgment capacity, filtering everything that enters our consciousness. He encourages us to ask, is this true? Is it useful? Is it under my control? So how can we apply these ideas in our lives? The answer lies in the daily practice of internal judgment. When we're bombarded by alarming news, controversial opinions, or social trends, we must stop and reflect. Am I being guided by reason or by emotion? Because in the end, the true wise person isn't the one who follows the crowd, but the one who walks firmly toward the truth, even if they're alone. And it's precisely this courage to remain faithful to reason that prepares us to face life's deepest challenges. Challenges we'll explore in the next topic. We reflect on how the masses can be guided by illusions and how the Stoics teach us to resist these external influences. But is this just theory? History painfully shows us what happens when uncontrolled passions and collective fears dominate entire societies. Let's look at these moments as exercises in reflection, not just to understand the past, but to learn how to protect ourselves in the present. 3 historical examples of collective psychosis as reflection exercises. Imagine living in a time where simply being suspected of being different could cost you your life. That's exactly what happened during the witch hunts, a period of extreme irrationality that swept through Europe and America between the 15th and 17th centuries. Driven by fear and anxiety, entire communities turned against innocent individuals, accusing them of witchcraft without any concrete evidence. From a Stoic perspective, it's easy to see how uncontrolled passions, in this case fear and hysteria, governed these actions. Epictetus warns us, if you want to be untroubled, don't trouble yourself with things outside your control. But instead of applying this principle, people allowed panic to lead them, causing unjust deaths and destroying entire communities. Another terrifying example is the totalitarianism of the 20th century. Regimes like Nazism and Stalinism demonstrated the destructive power of collective psychosis. Entire nations were persuaded by ideologies that, today, seem obviously irrational and destructive. The lack of discernment and the surrender to fear created an atmosphere where critical thinking was crushed and unimaginable crimes became routine. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the things that happen around a person have no power over them unless they allow it. But what happens when an entire society gives in to fear? The answer lies in history. Chaos reigns and virtue disappears. These historical episodes show us what happens when we fail to control our emotions and abandon reason. They invite us to reflect. Are we repeating these patterns in our own time? Are we allowing fear and anxiety to lead us to irrational choices? For the Stoics, these moments are more than lessons from the past. They are calls to vigilance. Because as we learn to control our emotions as individuals, we can also inspire others to resist collective chaos. And this leads us to the next question. What triggers this kind of irrationality in entire societies? To answer, we need to delve into the psychological causes behind collective psychosis. Looking at historical examples of collective psychosis, one thing becomes clear. These phenomena don't happen by chance. They are fueled by something very human, our uncontrolled emotions. Fear, anxiety, panic, all are powerful fuels for irrationality. But according to the Stoics, this is exactly where we have the greatest power, the power to choose how we deal with these emotions. Let's understand together how fear transforms into psychosis, and more importantly, how Stoic philosophy teaches us to resist. 4. Factors that trigger psychosis and the Stoic response to fear and anxiety. Imagine fear as a seed. It can be small, almost insignificant, but if watered with panic and anxiety, it can grow into a dark forest, difficult to traverse. That's exactly how fear works in a society. It starts with a real, imagined or fabricated threat, and quickly spreads like a virus when it's not controlled. The Stoics teach us that fear doesn't come from the external world, but from how we interpret what happens. Epictetus said, "It is not things that disturb us, but our opinions about things." In other words, fear arises when we judge something as threatening, even when it often isn't. In collective psychosis, this misguided judgment multiplies. An individual in panic might resort to delusions to alleviate their anxiety, but when an entire society does this, the result is devastating. Think about how rumors spread rapidly in times of crisis, or how alarmism can lead to irrational mass decisions. The Stoic response to these moments of panic is simple but powerful: the dichotomy of control. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This practice helps us separate what is within our control from what is not. For example, you can't control the opinions of the masses, but you can control how you react to them. You can't prevent crises from occurring, but you can choose not to fuel the panic. This is the core of Stoic philosophy, using reason to govern our emotions instead of being governed by them. When we apply this, something transformative happens. Fear ceases to be a master and becomes a messenger. It no longer controls our actions, but alerts us to what needs attention. And by resisting panic, you become a point of stability in a disorderly world. These Stoic principles not only help the individual find peace, but also have the power to positively influence those around them. After all, calm is contagious, just like panic. As we move forward, we will explore how these ideas can be applied practically, especially when facing modern forms of collective psychosis, such as totalitarianism. Understanding the role of fear and anxiety in the formation of collective psychosis gives us a powerful advantage, the ability to identify the first cracks in a society's balance. But there is one particular phenomenon that uses these cracks to build something even more dangerous: totalitarianism. Here, Stoic lessons on inner freedom and self-discipline are more valuable than ever. 5. Totalitarianism and Stoic self-discipline. Totalitarianism doesn't arise overnight. It grows where there is fear, misinformation, and desperation. It thrives by stripping people of their ability to think for themselves, imposing conformity, and demanding blind obedience. But at its core, it seeks to destroy something fundamental: freedom. Not just physical freedom, but freedom of thought, of being who you are. The Stoics, however, show us that this inner freedom can never be taken away unless you allow it. Epictetus, who lived as a slave, stated, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Even in the most oppressive conditions, he believed that true freedom resides in our minds and in our ability to choose how we react. Under a totalitarian regime, the masses often succumb to psychological manipulation, whether through fear, propaganda, or isolation. But Stoicism offers a different path. It teaches us to practice self-discipline, to cultivate a mind focused on virtue, and to resist the temptations of conformity. Think of Marcus Aurelius, an emperor who could have abused his power but chose to live according to the principles of reason and justice. For him, power did not corrupt because he knew that true power lay in governing himself before governing others. He wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." This Stoic self-discipline is not just a defense against oppression, but an act of resistance. By refusing to give in to the fear or delusion imposed by a regime, you not only protect your own freedom, but also become an example to others. In a world where everyone seems to bow to the system, the simple act of thinking freely can be revolutionary. And the pursuit of virtue, central to Stoicism, is what sustains this resistance. Virtue means living according to reason, with courage, justice, moderation, and wisdom, qualities that cannot be manipulated or destroyed by external forces. Totalitarianism tries to turn people into submissive subjects, but the Stoic sees this as an opportunity to exercise their inner strength. Each day under oppression is a day to practice patience, courage, and resilience. Therefore, the Stoic message is clear. The world may try to imprison your body or mold your mind, but your inner freedom will always be yours. And this freedom, strengthened by self-discipline and virtue, is the key to resisting totalitarianism and any form of manipulation. When we talk about totalitarianism, what comes to mind are the bars that imprison the body and the orders that control actions. But there is something even more insidious in this system, the direct attack on the human mind. Called menticide, it destroys the ability to think independently. At this point, Stoic philosophy offers us a powerful antidote, the use of reason as a shield and sword against delusions and manipulations. 6. Propaganda, menticide, and the power of reason. Imagine living in a world where the truth is distorted and lies are repeated so often that they start to seem real. Contradictory reports, misinformation, and constant chaos are tools used to confuse people, wear down their rational minds, and make them dependent on leaders who promise simple answers. This is the essence of menticide, the murder of the independent mind. But as the Stoics teach us, the chaos around us doesn't have to dominate our minds. Epictetus reminds us, if someone tries to control your mind, it's up to you to decide whether to give in or not. The key to resisting lies in the power of reason. Reason is the light that guides us through the darkness of manipulation. It's the filter that helps us distinguish fact from fiction, truth from propaganda. The Stoics cultivate this ability by practicing the questioning of beliefs. Is this true? Is this useful? Am I being guided by emotion or logic? While propaganda seeks to create an emotional response, fear, hatred, or euphoria, the Stoic seeks to understand, not to react impulsively. Marcus Aurelius, facing immense pressures as emperor, wrote, "Be simple and direct, avoid confusion." Menticide thrives when we become passive and accept what we're told without questioning. The Stoics, on the other hand, teach us to be vigilant. They practice mindfulness, not just to control their emotions, but to observe how their minds are being influenced. A powerful Stoic tool against menticide is the exercise of premeditation. Anticipating how manipulation might occur gives us the strength to resist. For example, when a message appeals to fear, we can ask, why are they trying to scare me? What is the real objective here? The ultimate goal of menticide is total control. But the Stoic knows that true control can only be exercised over oneself. By strengthening their minds with reason and virtue, they become unshakable, even in the face of a barrage of propaganda. And there's something even more inspiring here. When you resist manipulation, you not only protect yourself, but also become an example for others. Your clarity can be the beacon that lights the way for those around you. Stoicism invites us to be masters of our minds, because in the end, the mind is the last bastion of freedom, and reason, the best defense against any attempt to invade it. In the fight against menticide, we've seen how reason is our best ally. But today, we face an even greater challenge, a silent enemy that doesn't forcibly demand our attention, but slowly consumes it. Modern technology, with its incessant notifications and endless stimuli, fragments our attention and pulls us away from what truly matters. This is where the Stoic practice of mindfulness becomes more relevant than ever. 7. Modern technology and the cultivation of Stoic mindfulness. Think about it. How many times throughout the day are you interrupted by a phone alert, a message that demands an immediate response, or endless scrolling through social media? These small moments of distraction accumulate, and before we realize it, we end up losing something valuable: the connection with the present. However, the Stoics teach us that the present moment is all we have. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Only the present is ours. The past is out of reach and the future is uncertain." For him, living fully meant being aware of the now, without being dragged away by distractions or worries. Modern technology, on the other hand, often drags us in the opposite direction. It creates an overload of stimuli that scatters our minds, leaving us anxious, distracted, and, ironically, disconnected from ourselves. This happens because technology wasn't designed to help us reflect, but to capture our attention. The Stoics practiced daily contemplation as a way to reconnect with the essential. Epictetus said, "Pay attention to what is within your control and let the rest go." Today, we can adapt this practice to confront technology. Before letting yourself get caught up in an avalanche of stimuli, ask, does this deserve my attention right now? How is this contributing to my well-being or my purpose? The cultivation of Stoic mindfulness teaches us to pause and reflect before acting, to resist the temptation to check the next notification or scroll once more through the feed. A particularly useful Stoic tool is the practice of evening meditation. Marcus Aurelius did this in his journal, reviewing his actions and thoughts. What did I do today? Was I guided by reason or distracted by impulses? You can apply this by evaluating how you used your time. Did technology help you achieve your goals, or did it divert you from them? By adopting Stoic mindfulness, we transform technology from an enemy into an instrument. It begins to serve our purpose instead of controlling us. After all, it's not wrong to use technology, but allowing it to use us is. The Stoic mind is like a garden. It needs to be cultivated with care, protected from invaders. And in such a noisy world, every moment of silence and reflection is a victory. As we navigate the storm of technological stimuli, another modern challenge emerges: social isolation. It's not just physical. Often it's an emotional and mental distancing that pulls us away from others and ourselves. For the Stoics, however, the solution lies in our own nature. We are made to connect, to live in community. Let's explore how cultivating human connections, as strongly advocated by Marcus Aurelius, can be the key to resisting isolation and the manipulations it can bring. 8. Social isolation and the value of human connection in Stoicism. Have you ever felt lonely even when surrounded by people, or disconnected, even in a hyper-connected world? Social isolation isn't just about being physically alone. It's the lack of genuine bonds, relationships that sustain us and remind us what it means to be human. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest advocates of Stoicism, reminds us that Man was made for the good of others. He saw humans as parts of a larger organism, each playing their role for the benefit of the whole. For him, living in harmony with the community wasn't just an ideal, but a necessity for flourishing as individuals. When we're isolated, our resilience diminishes. We become more vulnerable to external manipulations, such as those promoted by totalitarian regimes, which know very well that a lonely population is easier to control. Isolation deprives us of the corrective strength of different perspectives and the emotional support that keeps us steadfast. The Stoics, however, offer a powerful response: cultivate healthy connections. They understood that we can't control others' behaviors, but we can choose how we relate to them. Epictetus encourages us: seek those who uplift your soul and distance yourself from company that lowers it. In practice, this means building and nurturing relationships based on virtue, honesty, and mutual support. These bonds not only help us resist negative influences, but also strengthen our ability to face adversities. Even Marcus Aurelius, who as emperor bore the weight of loneliness in power, recognized the value of connections. He wrote, "Help others and accept help when needed, for this is natural." This mutual exchange is the essence of social life and the antidote to isolation. In times of isolation, Stoic practices like gratitude can be transformative. Reflect on who is present in your life, on the people who offer support, even in small actions. Value these connections and seek to strengthen them, because just as a fire grows with sparks together, our resilience increases with others by our side. Ironically, technology can be an ally here if used with purpose. Use it to cultivate meaningful connections, to seek conversations that matter, instead of just passively consuming information. Ultimately, isolation is an opportunity to practice the Stoic virtue of serving others. When you reach out, even in difficult times, you not only help those in need, but also strengthen yourself. When facing isolation, we saw how human connection strengthens us. But what about when the society around us is already immersed in irrationality? When collective psychosis takes over, it seems impossible to resist without losing oneself. This is where Stoic philosophy shines as a light in the darkness. Let's explore how the Stoic becomes a beacon of reason and virtue, even amidst chaos. 9. Stoic resistance to collective psychosis. Imagine yourself in the center of a storm, where everyone around you is running in circles, driven by fear or fury. Unbridled emotions spread like wildfire, and reason is the first victim. It's tempting to go with the flow, to let yourself be carried away by the crowd. But the Stoic chooses a different path. They remain steadfast, a point of calm amidst the chaos. Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be prepared to be ridiculed, hated, and misunderstood." This is the essence of Stoic resistance to collective psychosis. It's not easy to be the only one thinking clearly when everyone around you succumbs to delirium, but it is in these moments that virtue shines the brightest. Resistance begins with the choice to live a virtuous life, regardless of the circumstances. For the Stoics, virtue means acting with courage, justice, wisdom, and self-control. These values do not change, even when everything around seems to be falling apart. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do what is right. Don't worry about what others think." In times of collective psychosis, this means questioning dominant narratives, resisting panic, and refusing to be swept away by irrational ideas, even if you are the sole voice of reason. By living this way, the Stoic becomes a beacon of hope for others. Their calmness inspires those who are lost. Their clarity of thought offers an alternative to chaos. Even without words, their presence conveys strength and resilience. In practice, this means not only resisting the delirium of the masses, but also helping others see beyond it. As Epictetus reminds us, don't just teach with words, but by example. This Stoic resistance is not just an individual act, but a contribution to restoring sanity in an insane world. By living with virtue, you demonstrate that it is possible to maintain humanity, reason, and inner freedom, even under the most difficult conditions. And more importantly, you show that there is a choice. That even when everyone seems to succumb to madness, there is always an alternative: to remain faithful to reason, truth, and virtue. By exploring how the Stoic can resist collective psychosis, we see that virtue and reason are our greatest defenses. But there is another powerful force that can sustain us in these turbulent times: art. For the Stoics, art and beauty are not mere adornments. They are windows into cosmic order and universal harmony. Let's understand how art reminds us of what is eternal, even when the world seems to be falling apart. 10. Art and beauty in the Stoic context. Amidst chaos, where can we find stability? For the Stoics, the answer lies in nature, the order and harmony that permeate the universe. Marcus Aurelius, in his writings, often turned his gaze to the stars, the seasons, and natural cycles, reminding himself that behind the apparent chaos of life, there is a greater logic. He wrote, "Observe how everything in the universe is intertwined, how everything is in harmony with reason." Art, for the Stoics, is an extension of this harmony. A beautiful poem, painting, or piece of music doesn't just move us. It reflects the underlying order of the cosmos. It serves as a reminder that even when totalitarian forces try to impose chaos and disorder, beauty remains, inviting us to reflect on what is eternal and true. In contrast, totalitarian regimes often see art as a threat. They attempt to control or destroy creativity because it challenges conformity. True art inspires freedom of thought, awakens deep emotions, and connects the individual to the whole, qualities that are antidotes to oppression. The Stoics believed that beauty is not only found in great works of art, but also in the simple things in life. Epictetus said, "Do not despise the beauty of small things. A sunrise, a meaningful conversation, or the rhythm of a poem can reconnect us to the greater order, even in difficult times." Stoic practice invites us to contemplate beauty as an act of resistance. When we take time to appreciate art or nature, we cultivate a sense of greater purpose. This contemplation helps us remain calm and centered because it reminds us that chaos is temporary, but the harmony of the universe is eternal. Furthermore, creating art in times of crisis is an act of Stoic courage. Writing, painting, or singing not only expresses our thoughts and emotions, but also challenges the attempt to stifle our individuality. Like the Stoics, by creating or appreciating art, we affirm that we are more than mere subjects of circumstances. We are active participants in the cosmos. Therefore, in times of oppression or chaos, let art be your companion. Look to the beauty around you as a reminder that no matter how dark the world may seem, there is light, a light that reflects the order and harmony the Stoics have always sought. Art and beauty remind us of the order and harmony that permeate the universe, even in times of chaos. But ultimately, the greatest battle against collective psychosis is not something external. It is within each of us. It is a battle for the mind, for inner freedom, and for the courage to live according to our values. This is the essence of Stoic rebellion, a rebellion that no one can take away from us. 11. Stoic rebellion against collective psychosis. When everything around you seems to be falling apart, when the voices of irrationality are louder and fear tries to take hold, the Stoic does not despair. They know that their true strength does not come from external circumstances, but from their ability to remain faithful to reason and virtue. Epictetus reminds us, "No one can steal your mind." This phrase encapsulates the essence of Stoic rebellion. The mind, when disciplined and guided by reason, is the last bastion of freedom. and this freedom is inviolable. Even amidst collective psychosis, you have the power to decide how to respond, to choose what to think and how to act. For the Stoic, resisting collective madness is not just an act of survival, but of courage. It is not easy to be the only one questioning what everyone accepts, to be the one seeking truth when lies are more convenient. But as Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nothing happens to any man that he is not formed by nature to bear." This rebellion is not loud. It does not require flags or direct confrontations. It is a silent revolution, made up of small acts of resistance, thinking for yourself, acting with virtue, refusing to be manipulated by fear or propaganda. And by doing so, you become more than a survivor. You become an example. Your calmness amidst chaos, your clarity in confusion, and your courage in times of fear inspire others. Like a lighthouse in a storm, you illuminate the path for those who are lost. Collective psychosis may try to steal our humanity, but the Stoic responds by reaffirming it. They remind themselves and others that true freedom does not depend on the outside world, but on the peace we cultivate within. In conclusion, I leave you with this thought from Marcus Aurelius. The soul that has self-control, that remains firm in the face of events, is like a rock that the waves never move. May this Stoic wisdom guide you in times of uncertainty, and may your own life be an act of rebellion against irrationality. Because, in the end, the choice is always yours, to succumb to chaos or to rise as an example of reason and virtue. May we all choose to be the beacon in a world that needs light.